This is the first of our student webinar series, and we want to talk about how to make the most of your online class. So again, thank you for being here with us, and thank you for joining. We have been doing this online thing for quite some time, actually. It's been about 2 months since I've been working in the office, and hopefully you've gotten into somewhat of a good routine and gotten down some of these basics. I know some of these things are difficult or maybe a challenge for you in your situation, but these are some things that experts recommend as you're working from home or studying from home, some of the things that are just good practice overall. So the first is following a consistent schedule. So we know your class is in a consistent schedule, but as much as possible, if you can have a daily schedule where you know what time you're studying, things like that, as you're consistent, it will just help you get in that routine and make the most of your time while you're at home. The next one, having a good physical space with good lighting, proper seating, you're comfortable, the Wi-Fi is good so it's not going out, and a good quiet place is good as well. So you can eliminate distractions like your pets, maybe like your children, your family, your roommates, other people that you may be with, communicating with them, yes, I'm online, I'm in class, I'm not available. And then also having those online distractions eliminated, that you're actually present in your classroom and not checking your email or social media, things like that. You know, falling down a Wikipedia wormhole. So we hope also that you've taken the last couple months to get to know your online classroom, that you're more comfortable with Zoom, or some of you may be using Teams. If you have still questions about that, please reach out to us. We have some training available for you, so we can point you to things that might help. Another thing that is helpful is to organize your computer workspace. Maybe you've bookmarked in your browser the LMS, or you know, hopefully DLS Online, the links that you need for your class, your favorite online dictionary, stuff that as you need it in class is easily accessible. And then finally, we hope that you have been able to find ways to stay motivated as you've been working at home online. A language researcher, even back in the 60s, identified motivation as one of the primary things that are important for you as you are learning a language. They said with the proper motivation, it's inevitable that a human being will acquire language if they're given the right input. So keep that motivation up and you will be successful in your online class. So now that we've gotten through the basics, here are some of our tips for making the most out of your online language class. These are things that the DLS staff has brainstormed and come up with. There are also things that represent best practices in second language acquisition. So they're backed up by research and a lot of expertise outside of DLS as well. So we'll talk through these 5 items to help you make the most of your online class. So tip 1 is be your own advocate. This is really very important. And step 1 of that is being able to communicate openly with your teacher. So even more than just telling them that maybe the webcam is pointed at their forehead and not at their whole face, or that you can't hear them, be willing to communicate openly with them. If there was something that they did in class that you really, really liked, tell them, and then maybe they can do it again in the future. If there was an activity that they tried that didn't really work well, you can let them know that as well. And that feedback is helpful, because then they can tweak that activity in the future. They're not constantly trying to do that activity when you really feel, yeah, I don't think this is the most helpful thing for me. So please be willing to be your own advocate and communicate with your teacher to let them know what's working and what's not for you. This is an important one. If your teacher is struggling with the technology, if they're having issues with Zoom, they can't figure out how to stop sharing their screen or to navigate to a certain web page, you can take remote control of the computer. If you don't know how to do that in your online platform, we can help point you into resources where you can do that. But you can take control of the technology in the classroom if it's a struggle for your teacher and you have more strengths in that way. Um, I think this next one is fairly obvious to any of us who've tried to learn a second language and tried to communicate online or over the phone. But there are differences between in-person and online communication. I know I have a mother-in-law who speaks only Spanish, and my Spanish is okay, but let me tell you, it is a world of difference trying to talk with her over Skype versus talking with my husband's brothers and sisters in person. First of all, the visual cues are less obvious online. It's harder to read that flat screen and that person than it is a flesh and blood human being that you're sitting across the table from. And the audio quality itself can be challenging. Maybe your speakers or your headset, they just don't give you the same kind of audio quality that your ears do when you're sitting in the same room. That's not even to mention if there's an issue with the internet and there's a lag and you find yourself talking over your teacher. There are all kinds of issues that can come up when you're trying to communicate online. And reminding your teacher, hey, could you please repeat that? I'm having trouble understanding, and letting them know and reminding them in case they've forgotten that it's especially difficult for second language learners to process online communication more than in-person communication sometimes. Okay, another thing that you can feel free to do to advocate for is to ask your teacher to vary activities. So if you're finding yourself doing the same thing over and over again in class and you're feeling a little bit stuck or a little bit bored, ask your teacher to break up the online instruction with some different kinds of activities. And this leads a little bit into tip 2, which is find a balance between on and offline time. So it's really important. I know some of you are in class for 2 or 4 or 6 hours a day, and that's a lot of time to be sitting in front of the screen. So be sure to ask for breaks when you need them. Do be sure to take a full lunch break. Don't try to shorten lunch so that you can get finished earlier in the day. You need that time as a mental break so that you can mentally reset and process and come back rested and ready to start again. One thing that I found helpful as I've been working online at home is setting a timer on my phone that every 30 minutes to stand up and move around. In your class, you may want to take a break every 50 minutes. So set that timer on your phone to be a reminder so that you're not stuck in the activities and getting so excited about the language learning that you forget and you've been sitting for too long. So please do make sure you're taking those breaks. Another thing that's important to do is to rest your eyes. One thing that's helpful to do that is to actually keep a physical notebook next to your computer and take notes in the notebook rather than on your computer so that you are looking away from the screen, you're giving your eyes that rest. Another thing that is recommended by optometrists is to follow the 20-20-20 rule. And what that is every 20 minutes, take 20 seconds and focus on something that's about 20 feet away. So that prevents your eyes from getting strained from focusing so closely at the computer. You have that time to focus on something that is farther away. And then also, it's totally fine if you and your teacher want to do phone sessions. So if you've been online in the morning and you're just feeling a little tired of that face-to-face, ask your teacher, maybe you can give each other a call, practice listening. And during that time, you can go for a walk, you can get up, you can move around, you can pace, do whatever you need to do on the phone, and that will give your eyes and your body a rest from being in front of the screen. Okay, another thing that we at DLS have been training our teachers to do, especially since they've been online, is to chunk their lessons. So what this means is that you should be changing your activities up about every 15 minutes. So you shouldn't be stuck doing the same thing for a really long time. This not only helps kind of keep things moving and keep you and the teacher engaged, but it's also very helpful as well to kind of mentally have a break. And we've also been encouraging the teachers to give you time to work on your own off camera during certain autonomous activities. So if you're listening to something, you can put your computer on mute, turn your camera off, have your time to listen and do whatever listening activity you're doing, and then come back together with your teacher. Just by a show of reactions, you should have a reaction at the bottom of your screen, maybe a thumbs up. How many of your teachers have been doing that during the classes? Have they been chunking, or have they been giving you time to work offline? Okay, I see a couple thumbs up, good. So if they haven't been, again, feel free to advocate for that with your teacher, because that's something that we've been asking them to do. Another thing that we have been encouraging the teachers to do is to use a flipped approach. And what that means is in instruction, a flipped approach means that there is some of the content that is presented to you, the student, not face-to-face in the classroom, or screen to screen, or camera to camera, whatever the situation is in this case. But see if there are certain parts of the lesson, for example, grammar explanations, that you can do on your own without the teacher being there with you. So for example, if you're studying the subjunctive mood in your language, maybe the teacher can find a good explanation of that online, send it to you. You'll have time where you can read it, process it yourself, come to the teacher with questions, as opposed to the teacher just sort of giving you the information online. That might also help, because then you'll have some offline time to do that thing. Okay. Tip number 3, and this is really, I think, important online, but also just in language learning in general. Become an independent, self-directed learner. So in order to do that and develop your autonomy as a learner, the first step is to really reflect on your learning. Think about how you learn best. Are you a visual learner? Do you need to see something? Are you fidgety? Do you need to move around? Maybe you need to have putty or a fidget spinner in your hand to help you focus during class. Think about how you learn and what works best for you. And then also determine if there are activities or strategies that have worked well for you in the past. Think about those things and identify them. The next thing would be to set learning goals for yourself. So you know the results that you want to get, you know your strengths and your weaknesses, so you should set specific goals to help you achieve the results that you really want to focus on. Another thing that you can do then is to identify helpful resources that you can use for self-study. So on the side here I have some examples of free resources like DLI FLC's webpage. They have a lot of good things like Gloss or learning language survival kits, Head Start, things like that. There are also a lot of commercial things. You may be able to get access to them through your library if you have a public library card, or there may be some that are paid programs that you're really interested in. You can ask your LTS if you can get access to that. And it's possible that we will be able to get a paid subscription for you. So if there's one of these that you've been really wanting to try and there's a paid subscription, please reach out to us and we'll see if we can help you do that. The next thing is to select and use language learning strategies. So language learning strategies are actions that you as a student and a learner consciously choose to do to help you be more successful in learning language. There are so many research articles, so many studies done that identify these language learning strategies, but then also promote them as far as their effectiveness. There are different strategies that may be more effective for you while you're working online than when you're in your physical classroom. So find strategies that align with your goals. And if you're having trouble kind of thinking about what some of these strategies are or identifying strategies that might help you, you can ask your LTS for a list of them. But they can be as varied as using flashcards to trying to identify word roots in words to trying to find the main idea or skimming and scanning when you're reading. There are a lot of different strategies for every skill that can really help you. You also want to monitor your language use. So when you're actually speaking the language or reading or listening, try and pay attention to what you are doing and what you are not doing. So the strategies that you're using, but also the words that you're saying or the things that are difficult for you. And as you're doing this, it's important that you skip the judgment. Don't sort of berate yourself because you couldn't conjugate that verb correctly, but just make a mental note of it. Oh, I really struggled with using the past tense when I was telling that story. And then the next time you try it, you try and be more conscious about doing better. And then finally, it's important that you periodically evaluate your plan. Is it working or not? Maybe your goals have changed. Maybe you've exceeded your goals and now it's time to push yourself a little bit farther. So continue to make adjustments to your goals and your plan as needed. Okay, finally, not finally, almost finally, tip number 4 is to remember your support system. So even though you feel like you are at home, you're alone, you and your instructor are kind of the only ones in this, remember that there is a big support system wider than that at DLS. So please do utilize your other DLS points of contact. So your LTS, the front desk staff, we're at home alone as well. And so we are happy to connect with you and provide resources and help as needed. So for example, if you feel like a group class would be helpful, you can reach out to your LTS and they might be able to coordinate that so that you and your teacher can get together with another student and teacher and have a teacher exchange, or you could all meet together. A really successful example of this happened with some Chinese classes a week or so ago, where they did a Pop Speak activity. And if you've participated in Pop Speak at DLS in a physical way, you know that that is where a group of teachers and a group of students get together, and the students take turns talking with each teacher, and they just kind of rotate around talking about different topics, different prompts. And it's a good way for students to get additional speaking practice with someone who isn't their teacher. We were able to arrange one of those in kind of a smaller way for Chinese language, and the feedback was really positive. So if that's something you're interested in, please let your teacher, let your LTS know, and we're happy to arrange that for you. Please also get involved in the DLS community. Do that by attending these student webinars. We also are offering wellness workshops, foreign films, a lot of the things that we did when we were in person at DLS, we're still trying to continue online, so please do get involved. And if it's comfortable for you and your circumstances, and you're willing to share your family with your teacher or maybe your classmates, you can get your family involved. Bring them into the lessons, talk about your children, your partner, your pets. If that's comfortable for you and your situation, you can utilize that support system to kind of help you in your class as well. So, and finally, tip number 5 is to be understanding. As we're all kind of in the weeds of this online learning together, we hope that you've overcome most of the struggles, but still be understanding of your teacher's struggles, of your classmates' struggles, and especially of your own struggles as we're dealing with the uncertainty and kind of the craziness of maybe not knowing when our online situation is going to end, but just being aware of your own struggles and being empathetic for those of the people around you that you're interacting with. So we hope that with these 5 tips, you are going to be able to make the most of your online class. And with that, we will open up for questions. So please remember, as we're doing the questions, you can go ahead and go to this getfeedback.com link. And I don't know, Molly, if you would be willing to share that again in the chat with everyone. And yeah,
I think I lost, oh, Jessica just shared it out to you.
Great.
I had lost contact. But
Thank
yeah,
you, Jessica.
so it'd be great if you gave us some feedback, and Holly is happy to take questions, or any one of the staff is in the meeting.
Yes.
Either by chat or voice.
And my email address is there as well. So, and Bethany Zimmerman. So if you have additional questions beyond you want to reach out to us, we're happy to do that. So, but I'll go ahead and stop sharing. And then if you have any questions. Okay, I do see a question in the chat. Has there been discussion among the teachers about how to get physical materials to the students in time before they need to be used, since they're spread out quite a bit? Molly, do you want to address that?
Yeah, so Lucy's on the call too, who does, well, I guess Leah does more of the materials. Yeah, so we are collecting as early as possible. I think the biggest challenge, we're sending all the materials to, the physical materials to home addresses as soon as we can get them. I know Amazon is really backed up, especially with books. They seem to be non-essential books. So it's hard to predict. A lot of times we'll put the book order in and it will be delayed. So a couple times we've dropped them off where a couple staff are in and out of the office. We have at least one person there during the day. So we have been able to physically drop them off to either teachers or to students. But if you feel like you're not getting your materials fast enough, I apologize, but reach out to us. There may be another workaround that we can figure out. You should always have e-copies at the very least. And if you have printers, I mean, we can always print off a copy from our e-version and ship that to you faster. So if you like physical copies, then we can do that. So that's always a choice.
Molly, just to chime in, yeah, I'm the LMS administrator. So if you can contact your LTS, it's just to see if we can convert that physical book into the e-copy so that I can put them in your LMS course. That's, yeah, as Molly said, that's another way to get the materials to you as soon as possible.
Great, thank you. Any more questions from anyone? Okay. I think then, again, we appreciate feedback. So please, if you do want to take a few minutes to fill out that Get Feedback poll, we'd really appreciate it. And again, thank you for your time. We know there are a lot of things that you could be doing, and so we appreciate you joining us for the webinar. Molly, I don't know if you have any closing thoughts.
No, just thank you. And again, we're all here, and this is the extent of the online training is new to us and to our teachers. So, we accept any kind of feedback or any changes that you'd like to see. And I hope this was helpful. So thank you all. Contact us individually if you'd like to.
Thank you.